Fame doesn't come with a promise of a long life. Some of Kenya's biggest artists had it all: the money, the fans, and a bright future. Until everything changed in an instant. Some died at the peak of their careers, while others passed away in such shocking circumstances that to this day, people still have questions about their deaths. Some died in accidents, others from strange illnesses, and a few were even killed. Today, we'll talk about the Kenyan musicians who left us too soon, yet their legacies continue to live on. Let's dive into their heartbreaking, shocking, and also bizarre stories. We'll start in the 2000s and slowly move toward the present day. And we'll start with the story of Mary Wangui, better known as Issa. Issa is one of the most legendary figures in Kenyan hip-hop. Born on May 20th, 1981, he rose to fame in the early 2000s, transforming the Kenyan music scene with his incredible lyrical skills and a mastery of Swahili. His style of music was a bit different as compared to what Kenyan hip-hop was at that time, or what people considered as hip-hop. And I'm talking about groups like Kalamashaka, Huko Flani, and Mashifta. Issa's music was a mix of Kenyan hip-hop and the popular Kapuka or Boomba sound, a fusion of hip-hop, dancehall, and African beats. When the Boomba or even Kapuka sound was coming up, many thought that these sounds were going nowhere. But Issa in particular proved them wrong. His debut album, Nimefika, which was done in 2003, released under Ogopa DJs, was a game changer. Nearly every song, and you can confirm on that album, became a hit song, dominating radio stations and also the television. Some of his most loved tracks include Joe, Mosmos, Boomba Train, Amunitishi, Leo ni Leo, and Bamba, featuring Big Pin and K-Rupt. Even after the passing of Issa, his posthumous collaboration with Nameless, called Maisha, became another big song. In 2003, he won 4 Kisima Music Awards, including Song of the Year for Boomba Train and Best Album of the Year for Nimefika. He was also nominated for the Kora Awards and the Tanzania Music Awards. Now, his impact was bigger than just music. He changed the game. He brought Kenyan hip-hop into the mainstream media and proved that the local artists could go international, because his songs weren't just played in Kenya, but also in other countries like Tanzania. His blend of Swahili, Sheng, and English made his music relatable to a broad audience, especially the young people. Even today, many Kenyan artists still mention or celebrate Issa in their songs. But Issa's promising career was cut short on March 16th, 2003, at just 21 years old. Was too young. He died in a tragic accident near Naivasha while returning from a concert in Nakuru. His sudden death shocked the entire nation.
It was a very sad time. Sad time. For not just for the family, but for the whole country.
Yep.
Yeah, and for me, I felt so bad because we didn't quite get the chance to work.
You had just started.
We had just started. And it was good.
It was great.
The future looked very bright for us. So I was like, I couldn't believe it now. So where do we go from here, you know?
To this day, family, fellow artists, and fans continue to honor him with tributes and memorial events. One of the people who has kept his memory alive is his brother, Habib. Over the years, Habib has actively participated in events celebrating Issa's legacy. He often appears on television shows like 10 over 10, sharing memories of his late brother and reminding people of his impact on Kenyan music. Nameless, who was with Issa during the accident, has also continued to honor his close friend and collaborator. Even in death, Issa's legacy remains strong. His influence was so massive that in December 2024, Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja announced plans to rename a road in South Sea after him, a true testament to his lasting legacy.
We shall be honoring our artists by renaming some of the roads. And I've spoken to Mheshimiwa Jalas, our county assembly has dealt with it. For instance, Issa, one of the roads in South Sea, shall be renamed after the great hero Issa.
And there's a song that was done in 2022 called Bandana ya Issa. a song that was done to celebrate Issa, and it's clear, even decades after his passing, his name still commands respect. Now, just a month later, after the passing of Issa, the industry, or Kenya, lost yet another rising star, Wycliffe Omondi, or Wicky Mosh. Wicky Mosh was one of the most influential Kenyan rappers of the early 2000s. His unique style and high-energy performances helped shape the Kenyan dancehall and hip-hop scene. And if there's one song that truly defined his career, it's Atoti, a massive hit featuring Gidi Gidi and Maji Maji. And when he was coming up, the Kenyan industry, or the music industry, was still dominated by Congolese Lingala and Western pop influences. But unlike many of his peers who tried to mimic American and Jamaican dancehall artists, Wicky Mosh had a different style, which was authentically Kenyan. Despite the fact that Atoti was sung in Dholuo, it became a hit, and the song still brings nostalgia, I know, to many Kenyans. And alongside artists like Issa, Big Pin, K-Rupt, and other artists, Wicky Mosh was part of a new wave of musicians who revolutionized Kenyan music. And by the way, these artists and many more took the Kenyan industry to new heights. Unlike today, Kenyan music at that time was on fire. Nigerians, the Oga, and the Tanzanians even respected our music. Today, it's the opposite. Sadly, Wicky Mosh died on April 17th, 2003. He was involved in a terrible accident as he was run over by a bus on the Nairobi Thika Road on April 12th, 2003 after attending a Chagola Latini ceremony held at the Carnival grounds. He suffered serious injuries and was rushed to Kenyatta National Hospital, where he fought for his life in intensive care, but sadly lost his life and was just 25 years old. His death came barely a month after the loss of fellow musician Issa, marking a dark period for Kenya's music industry. Though Wicky Mosh may not have received major awards, his impact was undeniable. Atoti remains one of the greatest Kenyan hip-hop songs of all time, a track that continues to remind us of his talent and contribution to Kenyan music. And by the way, that song trended on TikTok just a few months ago. So, Atoti is still a big song. His time in the spotlight was short, but his legacy lives on. And now, let's talk about Paul Otieno Imbaya, better known as the Mighty King Kong.
People normally call me the Mighty King Kong, the lady's choice.
Mighty King Kong was one of Kenya's biggest reggae artists. He was born in September 1973 in Siaya County. His life was a mix of struggle and success. A severe polio attack in childhood left him paralyzed from the waist down, but that didn't stop the Mighty King Kong from chasing his dreams. As I said, his life was a struggle. He went to Ambira Primary School, but dropped out at Standard 6 following the death of his father. He moved to Kisumu City, where he became a street kid and a beggar. In 1993, he moved to Nairobi, where he performed in clubs with the help of a DJ whom he met in Kisumu called DJ Stone. He later moved to Mombasa, where he worked with big bands like The Mushrooms and Pressmen. His talent even took him to Uganda, where he performed with the famous Simba Ngoma Band. Mighty King Kong music was mainly reggae, but also explored other sounds. His deep voice and powerful performances made him one of the biggest names in Kenya reggae scene. He even performed in other countries like Germany, Netherlands, and even South Africa. Some of his most popular songs include Are You Ready, Cinderella Mama, Right Direction, African Leaders, Gimme Your Love, and Stop Violence. His 1989 hit song, Lady's Choice, became a fan favorite, proving just how much people loved his music. Just to mention, his first album was produced by Maurice Oyando, the father of Talia Oyando. But Mighty King Kong wasn't just about music. He was also a strong supporter of Raila Odinga's party ODM, which had promised to nominate him to the parliament to represent the disabled persons of Kenya, but that didn't happen. Sadly, his life was cut short on Christmas Day in 2007. Reports say that he was poisoned, just imagine. He was rushed to Kenyatta National Hospital, but he didn't make it. At that time, he was only 34 years old and left behind his wife, Jacqueline Ouma, and a child. He said that in his final days, he was often seen wearing orange, the color of the ODM party, showing just how dedicated he was to that movement. The way in which Mighty King Kong died is quite shocking, and no one knows why he was poisoned, but even today, his impact is still felt. There's a documentary about his life done 2 years ago that features interviews with his mother and takes a deep look at his roots in Siaya County. People still celebrate Mighty King Kong, his music, and remember him as one of Kenya's greatest reggae artists. K-Rupt is another artist that people still celebrate and remember him as one of Kenya's greatest artists. K-Rupt was a rising musician in the early 2000s. Born in Nairobi West, K-Rupt's music was a blend of hip-hop and dancehall with a Kenyan touch, and was a big artist particularly in the Kapuka, or some say the Boomba music scene. Some of his most popular songs included Tukawake, Chacha featuring Sid, Kweli featuring Waridi, and the iconic Bamba, his legendary collaboration with Isha and Big Bin. K-Rupt wasn't just another rapper, he was part of a movement that changed Kenya music scene. Alongside Isha and other artists, he helped define the sound of early 2000s, the Kenyan sound. People socialized with K-Rupt or were close to him said that he was a unifier, always encouraging young artists and pushing for a stronger, more united music industry. But just as his career was taking off, tragedy struck. On November 29, 2003, at just 24 years old, K-Rupt was shot and killed in a carjacking incident while traveling to Nakuru for a performance. His sudden and violent death was another devastating blow to Kenya's music scene, coming just months after Issa's tragic incident. Fans and fellow artists were left heartbroken, mourning the loss of yet another young, talented musician. According to police reports, the carjackers dumped K-Rupt's body in Laikipia Forest. Sadly, those responsible have never been caught. For his mother, the pain was unbearable. She described K-Rupt as her only hope, and his passing left a void that could never be filled. Though there may not be records of major awards in his name, his influence on Kenyan music and the Kapuka genre is undeniable. Even today, his legacy is celebrated, with fans paying tribute to him on social media on platforms like TikTok. K-Rupt's life was cut short, but his music and impact will never be forgotten, and his songs still remind us of the talent and potential he had. Kantai was another artist who had massive potential. He was in fact one of the most important rappers in Kenyan music history. He entered the scene in the early 2000s and quickly became one of the most notable rappers. Raised in the US, Kantai's style was different from what most Kenyan rappers were doing at that time.
What more can you say about me? Nothing. What more can you say about this? Nothing.
Some of his biggest hits included Kantada, Jingahi, Issues, and Huni Nani, which was one of the biggest songs back then. Kantai is credited for introducing Norwegian-based rapper STL into the game with a happy collaboration.
I wake up in the morning with a smile on my face, with a feeling of nothing from today that I can take no mistakes.
His last song was in 2016 when he did a collaboration with Calligraph Jones called Ting Badi Malo. His influence on the Kenyan rap scene was undeniable. He wasn't just a rapper, he was a trendsetter who inspired other Kenyan artists to try hip-hop. But like many great musicians, Kantai's career was troubled by personal struggles. He battled alcoholism, which affected his music and his life. Sadly, on February 27, 2019, Kantai passed away at the hospital, St. Francis Hospital in Kasarani, after suffering from acute peptic ulcers. He was only 42 years old. His death was a huge loss for Kenyan hip-hop, but even though he's gone, his music reminds us of that incredible talent he had. Do you remember the song Manu na Arsenali?
A bit special out there today.
Back in the day, this track took over the Kenyan airwaves. It was everywhere, blasting in clubs, playing during the matches between Manchester and Arsenal, and even kids in the streets were chanting the lyrics. The hit song was created by two talented rappers, Drygin and Frakaz. They had that energy, the flow, and the potential to make it big. But just when their careers were taking off, something happened. Frakaz lost his life after a fight broke out in a bar. Not long after, Drygin also passed away, this time from alcohol poisoning. And just like that, the duo behind one of Kenya's biggest football anthems was gone. If you ask most people to name the biggest female rappers in Kenya now, they probably mention Femi One or Saru, but before them, before female rap was even taken seriously in Kenya, there was Lady S. Sharon Wangwe, better known as Lady S, was one of the first female rappers to make it big in Kenya, and she fought hard to prove that female rappers could compete in a male-dominated music scene. Anyway, she was born in 1983 into a musical family. Her father was part of a band called Orchestra Moja One Band that was formed by Moreno Batamba, a legendary Congolese musician who made a huge impact on Kenya's music scene in the 1980s. From an early age, Lady S was determined to follow in his footsteps. She began rapping while still in high school, battling other rappers during the school holidays and performing at Nairobi's famous Florida 2000 Jam Sessions. Her big break came in 2001 when Juakali introduced her to producer Clemo at Caliph Records. Her first song was Wananiita Lady S, which made waves, and she quickly made more hits like Lovely Ladies and Manzi wa Mtaa featuring Jimwat. She also worked with Pilipili on Ukimwona, which was a big song. Lady S had everything: the talent, the energy, and a growing fan base. But just as her career was about to take off internationally, she died. On September 3rd, 2007, she was involved in a road accident along Thika Road. She and her 3 friends were in a car that rolled over, killing her instantly. Ironically, that very evening, she was supposed to fly to the UK for her first international concert. Her loss was devastating, not just for the family, but for the entire Kenyan music industry. Let's talk about Ali Khamisi Mwaliguli. If you're wondering who that is, it's Ali B, a well-known name in the Kenyan entertainment scene, especially at the coast. Born and raised in Mombasa, he grew up surrounded by the Swahili culture. That is why his music was heavily influenced by coastal sounds like taarab and bongo flavor. Ali B became famous in the early 2000s. One of his biggest songs is Maria, a song that became an anthem and was loved by many people. That was not the only song that was big. There were other songs like Bembea, which of course made him more popular. Later, he teamed up with Saizet on Silali, a song that introduced Ali B to an even wider audience. This was when Saizet was still doing the secular music. Ali B also tried politics in 2017. He ran for the MCA seat in Mombasa County but failed. Then, on November 1st, 2023, Ali B passed away while receiving treatment at the Coast General Teaching and Referral Hospital in Mombasa. He had been suffering from pneumonia and high blood pressure. His sudden death shocked many people, leaving fans and fellow musicians mourning a true legend. Now, let's talk about the gospel artists who left us too soon. And first, Peter Kaberere. If you don't remember Peter Kaberere, then you definitely remember the song Mwanake, a collaboration with Benachi, which became one of the biggest gospel hits in Kenya. Kaberere, also known as Kabs, began his career with the group Joksi, which later merged with Gospel Fathers to form Zaidi ya Muziki. He later went solo and released hits like Kiburi, Nisamehe, and Just Away with Mr. V. But Kaberere was more than just a musician. He was a leader in the gospel industry. He worked behind the scenes as a logistics manager at More Sound Events, the company that organized the famous Groove Awards. He was also known for his dedication to making gospel music bigger in Kenya. Then, on April 6, 2014, Kaberere was electrocuted while working at his car wash in Nairobi. He was only 30 years old, and his sudden death shocked the country. His wife was pregnant at that time with their second child. His music, however, continues to be played and still inspires, proving that true gospel never fades away. Angela Chibalonza's music has also never faded away. Angela Chibalonza, originally from Congo, moved to Kenya in 1996 to pursue music and quickly became one of the biggest names in East African gospel and also a favorite in churches and gospel events across Africa.
I can say that my music ministry has grown because right now I can organize concerts, music concerts, and I am always invited by the pastors or crusades, seminars, conferences, churches all over Africa.
Her songs were deeply emotional and had a powerful message of faith. Some of her biggest hits included Ebenezer, Kaa Nami, Tabibu, Ulinuba Ni Kuabudu, and Yahweh. Angela was more than just a singer. She was a minister through music. Her music touched the hearts of millions, and I know even those who aren't Christians. But something bad happened on September 22nd, 2007. As she was returning from a gospel concert at Egerton University, her car was involved in a fatal accident. Her passing was one of the biggest losses in Kenyan gospel music history, but her legacy lives on. Her songs are still being played today, and her daughter, Glory Wanda Chibalonza, has followed in her footsteps. She is now a gospel artist and has released several songs, keeping her mother's mission alive. Emmanuel Machichi is another gospel artist whose songs are still being played. Emmanuel Chibanda, better known as Machichi, was another gospel star whose life ended too soon. Just like Chibalonza, he was also from Congo. He became a Kenyan citizen and built a name for himself as one of the most powerful worship singers of his time. His music was pure gospel, with songs like Amenisamehe, Imba Haleluya, Mwambie Yesu, Mpokee Yesu, Mimi Ndimi Njia, and Hakuna Kama Wewe. The songs are too many, but these songs became anthems in churches across the country. His influence even spread to South Africa, where his music gained airplay. Besides music, Machichi was a gospel minister. He helped other gospel artists with songwriting and Swahili translations. In November 2006, he suddenly passed away in Mombasa after experiencing breathing problems. His death shocked many people, especially since his career was just beginning to take off. Even after his passing, his music continues to receive airplay and still inspires many people, especially the worshippers. Among all the stories we have covered today, the death of Papa Dennis remains one of the most mysterious. Papa Dennis, whose real name was Dennis Mwangi, was born and raised in Kitale, Western Kenya. He rose to fame after being discovered by MP Alfred Keter and Sadat Muhindi through the Maliza Umaskini initiative. As a gospel musician, he was best known for his flamboyant lifestyle and hit songs like Makekes featuring Jimmy Gate and Foundation featuring Daddy Owen. At one point, he was considered one of the wealthiest musicians in East Africa, and he lived large, wearing expensive clothes, driving expensive cars, and traveling the world. He was so rich that he could afford to book big artists for collaborations. He worked with African stars like Kore de Bello, Chidimna, and even Mr. Flavor. Money never seemed to be an issue, as you can see. He once claimed that he had 3 bank accounts holding a total of 50 million Kenyan shillings. In an interview with Pulse magazine back then, he even compared his wealth to that of Nigerian singer Davido. But this raised eyebrows. How did he make such an enormous amount of money in such a short time? Regardless of the controversy, Papa Dennis was undeniably successful. He won several awards, including the 2015 Mafaka Awards, the 2016 and 2017 Pulse Music Video Awards, the 2018 Afrima, and the 2019 Dia Awards. Despite his fame, he was often criticized for his extravagant lifestyle. But he defended himself, saying that he was simply showing gratitude for his blessings. But behind the scenes, things were different. Reports suggest that by the time of his death, Papa Dennis was broke and struggling financially. On February 7th, 2020, he was found dead in Ngara in Nairobi under unclear circumstances. Witnesses who discovered the body wouldn't tell whether he had fallen or jumped from a nearby building. Police suspected suicide, but there are also rumors that he was linked to a cult. However, there has never been solid evidence to support this claim. In conclusion, these artists may be gone, but their stories are far from over. Their music still plays, even their words still matter, and their influence still lives on. Every song they left behind is a reminder of who they were and the impact they made. From hip-hop to gospel to kapuka to even genge, they shaped Kenya's music industry in ways that are still felt today. Who among these artists impacted you the most? Let me know. Drop a comment and let's celebrate their legacies together. And that's it. Remember to like this video, comment, comment by the way, and subscribe. Very important. Subscribe, and let's meet in the next video.